Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on refugee upskilling with mobile, WhatsApp, and learning upgrade. A big thanks to our partners at Pro Literacy and New Readers Press for hosting this event. We want to share with you a completely new approach to deliver life-changing learning to your refugee and immigrant clients. We're trying to help them reach their goals faster, but we're also trying to help you scale up so that you can serve a lot more refugees and immigrants that are in need. I'm Vinod Lobo. I'm the founder and CEO of Learning Upgrade, and I'm joined by Drew Robinson, our Director of Partnerships. And Drew will get us started today. Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Vinod. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Before I get started, just wanted to let everybody know that if they have questions, they'll be able to use the Q&A. We'll be monitoring the Q&A throughout the presentation, and we'll be able to answer things there. And then we'll also provide some time at the end to go over some of the frequently asked questions and the questions that we weren't able to address throughout the presentation. So you can introduce yourself in the chat, but please use the Q&A for questions that pop up. Thank you. To get started, I'm going to go over a brief outline of what we'll be covering today. We'll get started with an introduction on who we are at Learning Upgrade. Then I want to get right into the use cases, and so you'll be able to hear directly from some of the refugees we've worked with, some of their instructors, and then see some of the data from some of the institutions that we've worked with. After that, we'll talk about the app. So what is it that these learners are using? How are they accelerating their English, their math, and their job skills? We'll also get into the learning management system. So how do you as an instructor or as an admin track and monitor this learner progress? More importantly today, how do you deploy to refugees that might not be in your physical site? So if you're an education provider, we will cover a blended model. But for those of you that would like to scale up and reach refugees that are in your community, or maybe they're in different countries, I'll be getting into how we do that using our LMS. That'll tie into the deployment model. So we'll talk about some of the deployment models in use throughout the world today. And then finally, we're going to go over how you can get started. So for those of you that have never used Learning Upgrade in the past, we do offer free pilots. We'll be sharing a link in the chat for that, and that'll enable you to get started. It'll essentially just take you to a form over at New Readers Press. You'll fill that out, and then New Readers Press will follow up, get you started with a free Learning Upgrade pilot. You can also visit the New Readers Press Find My Rep page. So if you'd like to have some additional questions answered, you'll be able to get paired up with your New Readers Press rep, and they'll be able to answer any questions that you have after this. But again, for those that pop up during the presentation, please use the Q&A, and we'd be more than happy to address those during the presentation here. So about Learning Upgrade, at our core, at our foundation, our main goal is really just helping education providers deliver life-changing education to every single learner, regardless of their starting point and regardless of their location. So how do we do that? We really approach it in three ways. So number one, the key focus probably of today is going to be the Breakthrough app. And that's what the refugees are using to learn. And that's going to focus on English, math, and job skills. But what makes Learning Upgrade unique and special is that we're able to deliver learning at a minimum of 4x speed. So we're going to dramatically accelerate the growth of your learners. We do that with binge learning. So we use an engaging format. We tap into how they're using their time on their phones. So obviously we're going to be using WhatsApp for a lot of the onboarding, but we also use songs, video, and games to teach. And we do it in bite-sized learning to help your learners build up their confidence, build up their skills, and then accelerate towards growth. We also have an industry-leading LMS, and so that's going to help your teachers, tutors, and volunteers track and monitor the day-to-day progress of learners. But we also have those higher-level rules for org admins, those that might be tracking and monitoring across multiple sites, so that you can see how your learners are achieving growth regardless of where they are and regardless of how many students you have. As Vinod mentioned at the beginning, we really are geared up to help every single site scale. And for some, scale means reaching 100 when they're reaching 10 now. For others, you might be, serving 1,000 and want to scale up to 10 to 15,000. Regardless of how many you want to serve, our LMS can be set up to help you do that. And then, as I mentioned before, it's free to start, very affordable to grow. Our pilots include access to all of our courses. We also include training, so we're going to help you get started. And that's going to give you the ability, to scale, to reach those learners and get started in a way where you're going to get that validation instantly. So a little background on Learning Upgrade. We're 3 million students and counting now. Many of you probably know us from the Adult Literacy X Prize if you've seen us in 2019 at the Pro Literacy Conference, or if you saw us recently in Seattle at COABE or previous conferences. So the Adult Literacy X Prize, it was the largest field test ever done in adult ed with 12,000 learners to see if an app could get measurable gains in literacy for low literate adults. So they used CASAS as the benchmark there, and that was only for learners that were low literate. So that was a CASAS of 210 or below. And then they wanted to see which app would have the highest gains for those learners throughout the field test. And so we were the grand prize winners there. And that was, again, a 12,000 learner study. It's appropriate for multiple ages as well. So, we really are focused on adult ed here with New Readers Press. But a lot of our sites, especially for the refugees, are using Learning Upgrade for 2-gen learning. We're enrolling everybody in the household. And that way, whether it's parents, secondary family members, members of the community, whoever wants to improve their math, English, and job skills, we provide access, and it's a fantastic solution for all. What makes Learning Upgrade unique is not just the fact, as I talked about, the engagement, but it's also going to be standards-based. So this is really a differentiating factor from some of the other apps on the market, is we're going to meet all those federal standards for those of you that are in the traditional education provider role. We also can use SMS, so text message, WhatsApp, and email for those quick deployments. So we can send push notifications to those learners. We're able to send out their credentials. We can send the success story, so when they're earning certificates. And we're continuing to build out that notification platform to make sure that our education providers that have no access face-to-face with a learner can still give them a robust learning experience. And then it's a fully featured app. So we don't just cover, English like some and make you fragment your offerings. With one app, you're going to be able to provide English, math, and then our current job skill offering is digital literacy. And then coming out later this year, we also have work-life skills, we have financial literacy, and then a key one here in the States is we have a citizenship course that'll be coming out. And all of this is included in one app. We're not going to nickel and dime you for each one of the courses that you want to add. Everything is included with a Learning Upgrade subscription for every single one of your learners, and they can work on these simultaneously. So before I get started, I want to talk about a story. We always like to start with anecdotes. What does Learning Upgrade do for the life of your learners? And so here's a story about Studio. And Studio is attended UMI Learning Center, which is a refugee center in San Diego. And we work closely with the refugee centers where we're from, which is Southern California. We also work closely with migrant education here in Southern California. But Studio here, was studying at home with 7 children. And she pretty much came into UMI saying she wanted to really improve her learning. Started out to help her kids. With 7 children, they were all learning English, a little bit behind in math as well. And she came in because she just really wanted to help them on their homework and give them that assistance so that they could be successful in the classroom. And what that solely turned into is she got started with Learning Upgrade and started out, took our assessment and was placed at our very beginning for English and math. So for English, that's going to be pre-literate, the very, fundamentals of learning the alphabet. And then for the math, that's the very beginning as well. So that's the 1, 2, 3s, basic addition, basic subtraction. And what she was able to do is over 18 months, go through all of the Learning Upgrade content. And the reason that's important is, we can take a learner from pre-literate in English all the way up to high school equivalency, and the same for math. So from beginner, started working on our pre-algebra and algebra, and then we have those GED and high set test prep for those learners as well. And Studio went through everything. So again, this isn't an easy task, but it is possible because we have the content in a single app. The binge learning makes it fun, and it's accessible at any time. So she was able to work at 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. when her 7 kids would go to bed. And this is a journey that would have been a minimum of 5 years in traditional adult education. And she was able to do this in an 18-month period. And so this really got us thinking, if we can do this for one learner, let's do it for millions. So before I keep going, I have a short video where you can hear from Studio's ESL instructor, as well as a classmate that's a part of UMI as well.
Hello, my name is Shadia Mahmoud. I teach ESL here at UMI Learning Center. What's very amazing about this program is it really helps them love to learn. It just makes it fun and just more enjoyable. I think it's a great addition to add into our program. We have seen tremendous improvements. They started from basically doing the alphabets to now where they're reading paragraphs and reading sentence and completed sentence. So that's pretty amazing.
Hi, my name is Sabiba Jama. I'm here at UMI Learning Center, and I increase a lot of learning things in Learning Upgrade. Somehow, Learning Upgrade is the best thing that I should recommend for the people, for the moms outside, and I would recommend people that they should go, and it's just like easy things to do, and you can do whenever you have a free time. And you can do like when you are in the hospital waiting the doctor, or you can do when you are waiting the cashier at the Walmart or anywhere you are. Or if you're washing a clothes at the laundry, you can do it whenever you have a free time. It's easy and it's understandable. And somehow it will tell you all the vocabularies and something like new words that you don't understand and the word that you can't even pronounce. It will help you to pronounce and it will help you to spell right. And it's good. I like Learning Upgrade, and I also do every single day. Even like 5 minutes, I like to do it. Before I used to play video game, but now my video game is Learning Upgrade. And I can read right now, and before I wasn't understanding the new words and pronunciation, but whenever it pronounced me, I like it. And also, I was weak with math. 1 + 1 is, kindergarten can do it, but I wasn't doing it. Right now I can do up to 10. So that helped me a lot. I like it, and I should recommend a lot people for. So that's why I like it. And I am in math right now, it's course 2, which is I finished course 1. I get silver certificate, which I'm proud of myself. And also I did English, and now I'm doing English 2, which I finished it. I have 1 bronze certificate, and I am so proud of myself. I should recommend a lot.
Okay, so there you got to hear from one of the learners at UMI Learning Center, as well as an instructor. And so we've been working with UMI Learning Center for quite some time. And then, recently, so this is starting last year, we partnered with an NGO based out of Canada to provide learning support to Afghan refugees. It started out with a group in Turkey, and then since then has slowly grown to other countries. And so one of the incredible things about this NGO is, it's been a learning opportunity for us. When they started out, they reached out, and this is an all volunteer run organization. And so what they wanted to be able to do is scale up their education offerings without being in the country. Due to the COVID restrictions, all of the volunteers that we were working with were in Canada, but they needed to reach these refugees that were in India and then also in Turkey to start, and then again in those other countries. So we started, brainstorming, and one incredible idea that they had that is turned into a model that has been deployed elsewhere now is that they started with Learning Upgrade, got the learners onboarded, but then they also mirrored the Learning Upgrade LMS classes with groups in WhatsApp. And then those volunteers were able to communicate with the learners and essentially create a WhatsApp learning circle where the learners were able to share feedback, what they learned, encourage each other. And it really turned out to just be a fantastic learning experience for all of these learners. One of the other incredible things that came out of our partnership here is that all of the learners, regardless of where they started, they may have been pre-literate at the beginning. Once they worked their way up to proficiency in English, they were deemed a high flyer. And then in the next group of students, refugees that would work through Learning Upgrade, they were the new tutor volunteer coach for these learners. And so it became a refugee-led group at that point, which again was incredible to see. But the numbers were probably the most staggering thing for us is, when you launch a pilot or a license with groups in separate countries, you're always looking at engagement. How can we get these learners to log in? And this was really a testament to them, but also to see just how driven these learners were and how much time they were able to spend. So in a 6-month period, 2,000 learners were onboarded into Learning Upgrade, and those learners completed almost 350,000 lessons. They spent 44,000 hours on the app, and they completed 12,000 certificates. And that certificates is really the key, because every single Learning Upgrade course is a full academic grade level of content. So in a 6-month period, these learners were able to complete 12,000 of those. Most importantly is they were able to achieve dramatic growth in CEFR. So that's the Common European Framework. And then that's for the English, math, and then they also improved their job skills. So what does that look like? So before I get started, I know we have a mostly US-based audience here. And so the nice thing with CEFR is it roughly aligns to NRS, CASAS, and that NRS ESL levels. You can think of it similar to anyone that is following K-12 with Common Core. Common Core came out, most states adopted it, other states didn't, but they came out with their own standards. But in the end, they all are pretty close to each other. There's minor differences, and the standards are the standards. And so it's very similar here with CEFR. So what we did is when we're taking a look at the beginning, our app has a pretest, an assessment for learners. And we were able to see that 92% of the first 800 refugees that were onboarded were at that pre-A1 level, so pre-literate, which is what you expect. These are not fluent English speakers. And for many of the refugees, they've had little to no exposure to English at all. And so in that pretest, that was reflected there. But what you can see is after 6 months, what the achievement of the learners looked like based on those post-tests from our final challenges and achievement data and Learning Upgrade. So all of a sudden that pre-A1 that was 92% is now only 16% of the 800 refugees. But more importantly, when we look at those independent and proficient learners, those are now becoming the majority of our learning group. And this is just for our English, which is just dramatic and incredible over a 6-month period. To accelerate their growth this quickly is just phenomenal. And they were also achieving these gains in math and our job skills. And so this is just a look at what's possible with Learning Upgrade. And again, a lot of groups will look at maybe 10 or 15 learners to show you some hand-picked data. But here, this is 800 refugees. And really, one of the most difficult situations you can be in, where the volunteer and the organizing education provider is in one country, which is Canada, and the learners that are using Learning Upgrade are all the way across the Atlantic. And so in a challenging situation, but still phenomenal growth because of our Learning Upgrade system platform, the deployment, the deployability, and then also, the fantastic work done by Focus Humanitarian out of Canada. So now that we've talked about the Learning Upgrade app, kind of how it's changed lives at the individual level, but also the group level, large across the world now, what is this breakthrough app? And so now I want to give you an introduction on the Learning Upgrade app. So you'll see the app interface at the bottom left. You'll see we break our app down into content areas. So we have our English, our math, we have our job skills, and then we have our test prep. And so this is important visually for your learners to see all this. And this is where we get the content buy-in. And so this is very similar to anybody that's ever been recommended a TV show. When you recommended a TV show, or maybe you're browsing on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, you see something interesting. If you click on it and you see that there's only one season, the likelihood that you're going to invest your time in that show is pretty low. What you want to see is that there was a commitment to the show, they finished it, there's a season finale, hopefully a series finale, and then you say, okay, I'm going to invest my time in this and I'll watch this. And it's important for education as well. For your learners, when they start their journey at pre-A1, they're beginning, what they don't want to see is this is an app that's going to work for me for maybe a week or a month, and it's going to get me through the foundational skills. But then when I get to those advanced skills, I have to pick something else. There's no track. So we show them all the courses here. Every single one of these courses that you're seeing has 60 lessons. And again, they're a full academic grade level of content. When they complete these courses, they'll earn that certificate, and that'll signify that they've completed this. And it's all laid out for them from left to right. So regardless of where our pre-test is placing the learner, it could be that English basic. They can see they can go from basic all the way up to 5. After they've mastered those English skills at 5, they can go down to the test prep. And for many of our refugees, they're going to want to take that TOEFL or IELTS. And that way they have that language proficiency and they're prepared for that test. Or for those that are in the US or Canada, or those hoping to make it to the US or Canada, they can take that GED, where we have our GED reading and our GED math. So they can have that high school equivalency. And the same for math. Regardless of where they're beginning their journey, they know that they can go all the way up through algebra and then take that test prep for the high school equivalency. So that's the layout of the app. One of the critical things about every single course and every single lesson for Learning Upgrade is that we actually record tens of thousands of pieces of audio. And this is important for our refugees, for our new arrivals, because a lot of the times the teacher or the tutor isn't going to be right there when the learner's learning. If it's 1 in the morning and they're improving their English, a workbook can only do so much. But with Learning Upgrade, the teacher and tutor is actually built in. So for every single practice question that they're working on, if they get it incorrect, we have audio prompts that walk them through how to answer it correctly. And this is for every single one of the practice questions that we have. We also show them the formula. It's visual. We have arrows pointing things out in the paragraph or in a formula if it's on the math side. And then we're going to scale it back. We're going to give them a question that's going to help them build up their confidence and their skills until they're ready to go back and answer the one that they answered incorrectly. So this really gives them a time to have an individualized pace in the app, but also an individualized approach where they get to work on the content that they really need to be working on. As I mentioned, it is standards-based. For those of you that are interested in the exact lessons that we teach, for the standards, if you'd like to see the college and career readiness, if you'd like to see the Common European Framework, CASAS, those are all available on the New Readers Press website. Under Digital Solutions, you'll find Learning Upgrade, and you'll have access to all of these there. One of the critical ones, though, is just our placement table. So if you'd like to see, based on assessments that your learners may have taken, or maybe just an assessment system that you're familiar with in your state or country, you can pull up our table here, and then you'll be able to see how our courses align. But again, as I mentioned, really the key to the app is high engagement. One of the biggest challenges at any level of education is learner buy-in, getting them to spend time. We know that if we can get learners just to spend time learning, that usually is the differentiating factor to making progress, is that time on task. And so what we're able to do with Learning Upgrade is learn from how they're spending their time on other social platforms, but most importantly, just how they're spending their time outside of the classroom. Refugees, migrants, new arrivals, not surprisingly, are spending their time probably a lot like most of us. When we go on our smartphone, we're usually viewing content that's digestible very quickly. So whether that's on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, we're not logging in and then spending 30 minutes reading a black and white PDF. We might be watching a 10 to 15 second video here. Maybe it's nighttime, I'm ready to cook dinner. I'm one of those people where I don't want to read one of those, 10,000 word recipes that goes into the details. Just show me a 3 or 4 minute video so I can get the gist of it and get started. That's how most of our learners spend their time. They're not going and spending long hours reading black and white stuff. They're going in and they're looking at content that's engaging, it grabs their attention, and it gets the point across quickly. So with Learning Upgrade, that's how we teach. We have our instruction in a 3 to 5 minute format. We use songs and animation to grab their attention. We use different genres and have fantastic music that's going to get that buy-in and get them interested. And then after they have the instruction in the form of song and music, then they're going to answer practice questions. And for this part, it's gamified. And so the gamification is key. For every single one of the practice question modules, they have to earn 100 points. To earn 100 points, the point increments might be different. So if they're doing sight word, they might get 3 points per correct answer. They're doing KWL charts, that might be a 10-point answer. And then if they're doing some of the more complicated compare and contrast for long paragraphs, they could be getting 15 or 20 points per correct answer. In order to get to the next lesson, it's not just enough to get 100 points. You need to have 75% or better for your correct answers. And so that's going to be what we call a bronze medal. If they get 90%, that's the silver medal. And then 95 to 100 will be a gold medal. And that's going to be for all 60 lessons in a course. Once they complete all of the lessons, then they're going to earn that certificate, and that'll show mastery for the entire content area. And we're able to do this again with high engagement. That's what's going to drive the binge learning and lead to the accelerated growth that you saw for Studio, the learners at UMI Learning Center, the learners at Focus Humanitarian Assistance, and for the millions of learners that we've been able to reach all over the world. So here's a quick look at what that engagement looks like. You'll see at the top right, this is some of the instruction. Very complicated lesson to teach in a workbook, but again, ours comes to life. We can have color bubbles, we can have arrows. The narrator is talking through every single step of the instruction. The same as teaching documents at the bottom left. We can jump into something that looks exactly like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. We can show them the ribbon, we can highlight it, we can scroll over and illuminate the exact things they need to see while the voice is walking them through it. And then you can see the practice question at the bottom right. So we're doing volume of a rectangular prism. We see the formula. We know we have to drag and drop those numbers in. All those boxes are going to start out green. Once we feel like we have the correct answer, we're going to hit go. And in this example, we get it incorrect. So instantly they get the visual cue in red that was the part that was incorrect. But most importantly, we're going to show them the formula on the ribbon on the right, and the narrator is going to walk them through how to answer it correctly. That's that built-in feedback and remediation. Then we're going to scale it back, and they're going to get an easier question, and they can build up their skills from there. So now I'm going to give you another short video so you can hear from the experience at another refugee center in Southern California, which is the Somali Bantu Association.
I run the Somali Bantu Association of America. We have over 12 computers right now running, and we get today a new donation coming for 5 computers to make it up to numbers for 40 people to be available to use. The learning upgrade program, it changes a lot. Now a lot of people getting airport work, some they're getting in Hilton work because of the program helped them how to speak and how to talk and how to communicate and everything.
They're doing cool programs here, learning upgrade, where they learn math, English, science, writing, and all like the cool projects for them to get prepared for high school diploma or GED.
I come here every day and use my software for the learning upgrade to improve my English level. My goal is I want to learn English, improve my English. That's why I can reach my goal to get a better job.
And my future in San Diego is to get a more education, and for my kids, for our kids, and learning program, and to enjoy this program, and to buy a house, and to stay with our kids and stay out of the trouble.
What's happened here is that between the tutor, Medina, and this lab full of computers, they've been able to make some magic happen, which is basically to get adults who basically cannot even read a word of English to where you have literate adults who are reading and writing and speaking.
When we came here, it's a lot of change for us. Like we have a freedom of driving. I wasn't expecting myself that I'll be having a car and I'll be running this big office and helping refugees. I wasn't expecting. It's just my dream thoughts. But now my dream come true.
All right, so now that we've covered some of the use cases, I'm going to have Vinod come on and talk about some of the breakthrough learning that you can see with the app and what it looks like to optimize time on task for your learners.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. One of the things that we found when starting to work with refugees, Drew, if you can move the graphs forward, is that time on task, once we move from computers to smartphones, goes up dramatically. In fact, we found that a lot of the refugees are doing our program between 8 at night and 2 in the morning. So this means after work, after the children have gone to sleep, after dinner is done, they curl up where they would normally do social media and WhatsApp and games and Netflix, and they do learning upgrade. What we found is that in the old days with computers, we would get 30 minutes roughly a week in computer labs. Now we're starting to get 1 hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours a week. In Turkey, with the refugees, we were getting 4 to 8 hours a week. What does that mean? If you finish a learning upgrade course, it normally takes 25 hours. That means that if you're doing 1 hour a week, every 6 months, you finish a course and you've jumped 1 NRS level. So you're learning at 2x, 2 years for every year. If you do 2 hours a week, which is about our average for deployments, then you're learning at 4x. And every 3 months, you have an NRS gain. So what we learned is that when you put something like this in the hands of refugees, all of a sudden, they're in control. And if they want to spend the time, if they want to curl up with the phone and just pound out lessons late into the evening or all weekend, they can make these huge gains at 4x or at 8x pace. This graph is showing you the full path, which we showed you with Studio. How would you go all the way from beginning literacy to a GED and to job training, jobs, and community college? That's a long path. That's a very ambitious path that can often take 5 years or more in adult ed. What we found is we can compress that if you're learning at that 4x or more pace. What often happens is there'll be one program aimed at ESL or literacy, another one aimed at GED, another one aimed at job skills. We want to give them one app, one simple dream, one simple goal where you as an instructor can say, look, here's the apps, here's the app, here's the courses. And if you do these, it's going to take you so long. If you do so many hours a week, it'll take you so many months. And you can actually reach your goal, GED, job training, community college. After they finish the full English series, they'll place in math and go all the way from, let's say, math 2, 3, or 4, all the way up to pre-algebra, and then GED math, GED reading, and then do the digital literacy, the work-life skills, the finance skills. So this is one simple path, one vision where a refugee can literally see their future, and the only thing blocking them is time and putting in the commitment to finish it all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vinod. And so now that we've talked about the Learning Upgrade app, the engagement for the students and what that looks like at a few of the sites that we're working with, and I want to focus on what that looks like for you as the instructor, for the tutor, the teacher, the education provider. And so what does a deployment look like? And so to start, I'm going to start with our learning management system. So our learning management system is built out around roles. So for most of our refugee centers, migrant education, our 2-gen programs, the majority of the face-to-face facilitator, whether that's in person or virtual, will be set up with our teacher role. And so our teacher role is a very streamlined, simple, and easy to use platform that's built out around classes. And so they can create these classes, as you see in the image on the top right. And in those classes, they'll be able to have their students onboarded. And so we do spreadsheet uploads, student invites, and then which I'll be showing you in a little bit, push notifications via WhatsApp, text message, or email. We also have a beautiful reporting tab, and that's in the bottom right. So we put the KPIs up top where you can see general info on your license, real-time data on student performance, hours, time on task for learning. And then we have some powerful custom reports where you can set time parameters, select different subject areas, and download spreadsheets based around the exact information that you need. As I talked about earlier, we also have higher level roles above that teacher role. So if you're an organization admin that needs to track and monitor teachers at a site, multiple sites across a county, state, or country, we also have the ability to set up those hierarchies for you. It's a flexible platform that can be set up in any way that you need. So how do we do our onboarding? So we have WhatsApp in the title, and this is really one of the innovations that started with our new LMS, and then also with that NGO Focus Humanitarian out of Canada. And so what we're able to do here for the onboarding is if you have a roster, it doesn't matter if it's 20 or 20,000 learners, we have a standard learning upgrade template. You can plug in their names, their IDs, and if you have their contact info, their WhatsApp number, text, or email, you can upload those as well. Once you get those uploaded, then we'll be able to do push notifications for credentials. So instantly they'll get a WhatsApp message or a text message on their phone. It'll have their name, it'll have their username, password, and school ID, and it'll also have a link to the app. Now, the fantastic thing is these messages are also localized. And so for the first language of your learner, I believe we have 5 languages available now. We just submitted Ukrainian and Polish, so those will be available in a few weeks. And then if a language that your learners speak are not currently available, just let us know and we'll get it translated. But right now we have English, Spanish, Dari, Urdu, and Arabic. And then again, Polish and Ukrainian will be coming in a few weeks. And then any other language that you need, just let us know and we can localize the messages here. And then we can also localize some of the other onboarding for your learners to make sure that their first experience is a comfortable and familiar one in their first language, get them into the app, get them to take the assessment, and then from that point on, it'll be full immersion. Now, one of the most exciting things that we've had in the news in the last couple months happened last week. And so what they're doing at Focus, but then also a lot of the other programs, is those classes I showed you in the LMS, those learners are also a group in WhatsApp. And so an education facilitator, in these cases, it can be a volunteer, a teacher, or a coach, will create a WhatsApp group based around a group of students. So it can be 25, 30, 40, and then they're able to have that learning circle in an online environment. And the cool thing with WhatsApp is they make it free in most countries. And so they're able to use that as a communication platform between refugees where they're not getting hit on data, and they can share their success, they can help each other out, or they can practice their English conversation by texting back and forth. The challenge is that WhatsApp was always built for, kind of peer-to-peer communication, and it wasn't really a scalable platform. Well, last week, WhatsApp announced communities, and this is gonna allow education providers and organizations to group groups. And so you can see some of the examples they released last week, but this is gonna be fantastic. We'll be able to come out with some training and documentation once this goes live to help assist our partners create WhatsApp groups and make sure that it's a seamless interaction between the Learning Upgrade LMS and then how their learners are working through WhatsApp. So what we're doing for most of these is we have a teacher or a tutor on site, and that teacher or tutor is helping facilitate the onboarding and then doing the real-time feedback with the learners. And so you see volunteer up here, but it can be a volunteer, a coach, if you're a traditional education provider, a teacher, or an admin. And so this is what the journey will look like here. So number one is the training. So part of that's taking place today in this webinar. But again, if you fill out that free pilot form at New Readers Press, you'll get a free pilot and then a follow-up from Rachel. And Rachel does fantastic trainings. And so this training is a very general training. It's an overview on Learning Upgrade and how our program works for refugees. When you meet with Rachel, it'll be a little more customized. And so she'll find out some things about your program, how you're planning to deploy Learning Upgrade, how many learners you're working with, if it's volunteers, teachers, tutors, are they in person? Is it blended? Are you in the same country or state? And then we'll be able to come up with a deployment model that works best for you. Step number two is going to be to create WhatsApp groups to communicate with the learners, and then also log into the Learning Upgrade LMS to track and monitor their progress. From there, we're going to log in, make sure we're viewing the reports, seeing their growth, seeing how your learners are doing, where their pre-test is, how much they've advanced, the time on task, as Vinod talked about, seeing if they're hitting that 2x to 4x to make sure that that learning acceleration is happening. And then finally, celebrate student growth. We're going to download those student certificates. We can share those in the WhatsApp group and make a big deal out of it as your learners make progress. We help you out. We have volunteer requirements. And so the nice thing with Learning Upgrade is it doesn't require a lot. It's not a time-intensive program. So for our teachers, you're used to using LMS and deploying virtual platforms. Over the last 2 years because of COVID, you've probably deployed at least 3 or 4. But for volunteers that don't have any technology experience or limited technology experience, we have a pathway for them as well. And this has been critical with a lot of our partners because they have a lot of volunteers that want to help with refugees. They want to assist in the program, but they're not credentialed or experienced educators. And so what do you do with all these people that want to help in education, but don't have the skills or the education to do one-on-one instruction? This is their opportunity. They can get an LMS account, and all they have to do is log in, track and monitor student progress, view our reports, and then follow up with the learners and provide motivation in the WhatsApp group. So here we'll go over just a very brief demo. This is what it looks like for a teacher. They have their classes, they can click on the classes. We have simple multi-clicks here. And so what we're gonna do here is view the student report card. So as a tutor, volunteer, teacher, I'm gonna be looking at the report cards frequently. And the reason for that is someone like Studio that takes the pretest, they're gonna start out at our very beginning, English Basic, and then go through a number of Learning Upgrade courses. I might not be so interested in how they're doing in 10 Learning Upgrade courses. What I wanna see is how much they're growing. And so that's what we're gonna be able to show you here. In the English level, we're gonna show you their highest level of English attainment. We can show you the percentage of English content they've completed. And then we're also gonna give you a breakdown of the subject area scores. So this one's a little bit more dramatic for effect in the demo, but it's not totally uncommon to see a refugee that's able to build up their reading fundamentals, their comprehension, their vocab spelling, but then you see their listening and speaking a little weak. And so if you want to do some one-on-one time or focus on some listening and speaking, maybe in a group chat or in person, this is a great way to see which learners would most benefit from that. We also have the math as well, so you can see the total number of math lessons completed, and then the breakdown on the subject area scores to see where they're might need a little extra assistance. In this example, it instantly jumps out that numbers is where they need to spend their time. We also show you all the courses, and so you can see where they've earned certificates. And again, that's going to be a course that's been completed, their last played date, the total hours played, and then the number of lessons. And so that's going to be just the general layout. Each one of the classes, you'll see a list view of all of the students. And in those students, you can see in our perform actions, you'll click that print report card. So pretty straightforward there. Some of the other actions here for the multi-select is we can also print passwords. So if you're gonna be doing a roster upload, after you upload the roster, you can do a push notification. But what you can also do is print off these. So if your learners are in person, you can print off localized password sheets. So again, they'll get all the instructions in their first language. It'll be a little blurb about Learning Upgrade, and then it'll be all the instructions they need to download the app and get started. And so that's going to be really nice for a lot of learners who, again, have zero or limited exposure to English. They're going to be able to click that print passwords and pick the language that's going to be for the learner. We also have teacher whiteboards. So when we talk about non-credentialed or non-experienced teachers that are education facilitators now, they can utilize the Learning Upgrade teacher whiteboard. It's an unlocked version of everything Learning Upgrade has. So you'll see here, they can pick the exact lesson, the exact part of the lesson that they'd like to display. So this can be in a one-on-one setting, or it can be in a virtual setting like now. I can have 5 or 6 people from my WhatsApp group or in a Zoom room, and then I can broadcast. We can do these lessons together, work through them, do the practice questions in real time. Again, that built-in feedback and remediation is still there. So even if I don't know as the facilitator how to do it, Learning Upgrade does. And then I'm just at that point facilitating the learning for a group of learners. And so that teacher whiteboard is going to be available for all with an LMS login, and they can utilize that for their learning groups. As we get into the reports, I'll go through these quickly, but in your training with Rachel, she'll be able to do a more in-depth look at all of these, just because we have so many. We have individual growth reports, we have those subject area growth reports, and then we also have lots of detailed reports for student time on task. Learning Upgrade is approved for distance learning in quite a few states now. So if you're one of those states that gets reimbursed for distance learning, feel free to reach out to your rep at New Readers Press. And more likely than not, your state is approved with Learning Upgrade there. And so that's another, great thing about the program, because it is standards based and we have the fantastic reports to give you detailed time on task. We do qualify for a lot of those. So now to just do a brief look as we scroll our student time report, student progress report here. This is going to be the aggregate data. You'll see we have a one-click option to export everything to Excel, print, or PDF. You can view all the certificates in one view, and with one button, print them all off at once or save them as a PDF. In the growth reports, you can see English, math, or the individual subject area scores. So this is similar to what you saw on the student report card, but if you want to view it for an entire class, or if you're an admin, if you want to see this for an entire site or multiple sites, you can do that in the reports tab. Okay, so that's just a quick look at the LMS. Again, I know I went over things quick, but because we have so much in our reporting, we really focus in on that on the follow-up training for those of you that would like to get started with a pilot or a license. But if you do have any questions that we can answer at the end of the presentation, feel free to add those to the Q&A or the chat, and we'd be more than happy to get that answered for you. But for now, I'm going to have Vinod come back on and just talk about what the pilot looks like and why it's important to get started early.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. So many of you joining us have very different use cases. Some of you are doing in-person blended learning with your learners at home on smartphones. Some of you are doing remote synchronous learning on something like Zoom, but still doing remote learning with smartphones, and some are completely remote, all smartphones. So the important thing when you're starting a pilot is identify the learners that you want to teach, figure out what the model is going to be. Are you going to use volunteers to facilitate? Are you going to have teachers do this in a blended setting? And once you know the basic structure, you can sign up for a pilot, get the training going, upload your student data, and then get them going. And Maria asked, can you have real students in a pilot class? Certainly. So, it doesn't have to be virtual. They could be in person, but of course they can do the work on their smartphones at home. And they could work on computer labs at your center, and then smartphones or computers at home. Now, when you saw my graph before, if you are at a 4x growth level, that means in 1 3-month period, your learners could achieve a full NRS level of growth. So what we like to see in a pilot is that you get everything organized, get the training done, start the pilot, get the students engaged early, and motivate them, incentivize them so that they can achieve that full 1-year growth just during the pilot. Then you'll have the data at the end of the pilot to make a decision whether you want to move forward with a full deployment. So the key thing here is sign up for a pilot, figure out your structure, get your students onboarded, and then look at the data. And after 3 months, there should be quite a bit of growth for you to kind of decide on full deployment. I also, go ahead, Drew.
And so, yeah, I was just going to briefly kind of follow up on, what that looks like visually. And so again, similar to the volunteer training, once you start the pilot that we'll provide for you is the education provider, director, or even if you're a teacher looking to bring this to your classroom. Again, today's going to be that first training, the introduction, the start in Learning Upgrade. The follow-up will be from Rachel, where things will be a little bit more customized based on your needs. From there, our focus is really going to be on onboarding. And so for onboarding, we provide a few options. Option number one, as I talked about, is we're going to upload a spreadsheet. So if you already have a roster of learners, then we can just upload the spreadsheet and create accounts for those learners. If you have their contact information, we're going to do push notifications and send the credentials to the learners in their first language. If you don't have contact information, then we're going to print off their login sheet, and then we'll be able to hand those to them one-on-one. And then the third option is if you're one of those sites where you're just not really sure who your learners are or might be, then we have self-enrollment. And what that's going to be is for each one of your classes, you're just going to generate a 7-digit self-enrollment code. Again, these can be localized in the learner's first language, and all the instructions are provided there. So with one piece of paper, you can send that one piece of paper and give it physically to 1,000 learners, or you can email it to 1,000 learners or post it to a WhatsApp group. And then all they need to do is follow the instructions, plug in the self-enrollment code, and they'll get started with Learning Upgrade. So we have some fantastic options for onboarding. All you need to do as the education provider is decide on which one is going to work best for your program. You can also talk to Rachel at New Readers Press and kind of see, what one works best based on the information you have. Once your learners are onboarded, we want to have a bit of an onboarding party. So for those of you that are in person, that's fantastic. Let's set aside 1 hour where all of our learners are going to start with Learning Upgrade. Our goal is to have them not just log in, but complete their assessment and then 2 lessons in the program. And the reason for this is just like with Netflix, is if you go on Netflix and I recommend a show, you save it to your watch list, you're never going to watch it. Just like me, I have probably 20 or 30 shows people recommended that I never saw. But if I actually sit down and watch the pilot in real time, and then I follow it up with 1 or 2 episodes, at that point, I'm now binge watching and I'm ready to see the entire season. I want to see how it ends. Education is no different, especially with an app-based platform. So let's set aside an hour, give your learners an opportunity to log in, complete a few lessons, and start their binge learning. And then from that point on, all you need to do is track and monitor their progress and celebrate their growth and success. So that's everything that I wanted to cover today. I wanted to leave, we have about 8 minutes here for Q&A. I haven't had an opportunity to open that up, but I can view the chat. And then if you saw anything in the Q&A or chat, Vinod, that we can answer, that would be great.
Yes. So Marut asks, do students need data or Wi-Fi to do the lessons? And they do. This could be mobile data, it could be Wi-Fi data, it could be wired on computers in a lab. They do need data to access the course. And then that's why you can track the progress the way you can. And Eva asked 2 questions. Can this program app be used for native English-speaking adult learners to improve their literacy skills? And that's certainly true. Probably more than half our learners globally are English speakers who are either low literate or trying to improve their math, literacy, digital skills. The question 2 is, can this be used on tablets or Chromebooks? And yes, so very often a learner will move between many, many different devices while they're finishing Learning Upgrade. At a school, they might use Chromebooks, and in there, they'll be using the web browser, the web. And then at home, they might use a tablet where they'll be using our app, our iOS or Android app, or they might use a phone. So yeah, web-based on Macs, PCs, or Chromebooks, and then app-based on tablets or phones. And then a final question that I think I saw with Maria was, is there sort of a minimum or a maximum number of students on the pilot? There is not. In fact, we have some people start out with 50 students in a pilot, but then the students start talking to each other, the refugees are families, and saying, oh, I want to be on Learning Upgrade. And then it suddenly becomes 500. So you can certainly expand the pilot, start small and expand, or ask us for however many you need. Maria also asked about the cost of the program. you can contact the NRP sales rep. We can put that. There it is. Okay, so we just put a link in for the NRP sales rep so that you can talk to them about pricing and quotes and things like that. And let's see, I think I got
one more question. So from Rosa, and so can they skip any lessons? So the way it starts out, by default, learners are going to get enrolled in a course and they're going to work through one at a time. But as the instructor, you do have the ability to unlock a course or move a student ahead. So yes, they can skip a lesson if you just want to unlock it, and then you can unlock content and let learners jump around and pick the content that they want. So short answer, by default, they work one at a time, but you as the instructor in the LMS can unlock anything you'd like to unlock.
All right. I think that's all the questions, Drew, and we're close to the end of the hour. If there's any other general questions you have, put them up in the chat. Otherwise, there's going to be a link coming to you by email with a recording, a link to YouTube, a recording of this entire session. So if you want to share it with others, you can. That should be coming in the next week. Anything else, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, there was just one question from Marut about just the general pricing. So post-pilot, our pricing starts at $50 a student. And it's not locked to a student, it's really per seat. And so it's an annual license, starts at $50 and then goes down based on volume. And it's per seat. So, you know, a lot of our adult ed programs have higher turnover. And so if a learner's there for 3 months, you can remove the student quickly and then reassign that seat. But yeah, so just to give you that quick answer, it starts at $50 per seat, and that provides access to all of the learning upgrade content for the learners. So that's all courses, all lessons. And then that also provides full access to all of the LMS for teachers, admins, and then it also provides training. So again, we don't nickel and dime for any of that. It's just a single price, and we include everything for you. So yeah, thank you, Maru.
All right, good. And Dan and Rachel have put their emails in the chat if you have questions on those issues. Otherwise, I'd like to just say thank you again to Pro Literacy and New Readers Press for giving us this opportunity to have some time with all of you. We're very passionate about helping refugees and immigrants around the US and globally. So reach out to us if you have ideas or about the results of your pilots. We're excited to see you all get started with a free pilot and put some refugees on and share the results with us. If you have suggestions for improvements, Focus worked with us extensively on that. Please share all your feedback with us. We're trying to make this better, make this more efficient. Once again, thank you to Pro Literacy, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.